Kyler,
Well, howdy, Jonathan.
it's another day of Minot Talk.
Oh, I'm excited. It's going to be fun. We had a good week in Minot last week, I think, for the most part.
It was good for the news cycle.
It was for sure. There was some interesting stuff that happened in town, wasn't there?
There was. Your headphones working yet?
I can hear enough that I need to hear at least.
Well, that works.
So long as everyone can hear me, that's all I really care about.
That's right. So, first off,
Yes.
Minot Talk, the purpose and goal of Minot Talk is to bring talk radio back to the Magic City.
Exactly.
So, if you're about that, then make sure you tune in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. We're going to have this today. We'll talk about what we're going to recap today, but the day after City Council, we talk City Council stuff that's going on.
Yep, and that is the first and third Tuesday of every month. So be sure to follow us here on Facebook and YouTube. Like, subscribe, check us out on mydakotan.com. Weekly podcasts here with the Minot Talks podcast. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be talking to some really interesting people today. Have a lot of the city council candidates that are running for this June's election are going to be on to talk with us today after we recap yesterday's meeting. I'm looking forward to it.
So it's going to be an awesome time today. And then the alternate, when there's not city council, then we will be having a guest co-host that will talk about news in Minot. We'll talk about some of the things that will be on the top of people's minds.
Exactly. Latest news, the biggest happenings, all the fun stuff that happens in Minot that people say never actually happens in Minot. We're going to tell you.
Boring place, I tell you what.
Of course.
We'll prove
it isn't.
We'll prove people wrong. So if you're interested in getting talk radio back into the Magic City, we're working on it step by step.
We're building it up. We're starting here. Eventually expect to see us on all kinds of different streaming services. We'll be everywhere.
If there's a service you want us on, let us know.
Definitely.
Because we'll get it on there.
And if you have any comments, regards that you want to leave to us, make sure you leave a comment either on Facebook or YouTube. We read them all, we promise.
Yeah. Some of you guys, you guys go crazy. I always feel bad when we go and we post a podcast or something, and like the first thing somebody says is like, vote this person off, get rid of this person. It's like, well, I get it, but at least give a reason. Like,
exactly.
Like
of course you're going to start there, but why do you want them off specifically?
Yeah.
We can't blame you, but at the same time, you got to have a reason behind the motive here.
You got to have a reason here. Let's be nice to the people that come on. We appreciate the guests that come on.
Very much so.
So today we got some exciting stuff that we're talking about. First off, we're going to be going over some news that's hit the Magic City. Car crashes.
Yeah, first off, over the weekend, if you haven't heard, you can check us out on mydakotan.com. Wrote an article. Big car wreck in Minot on 16th Street by the water treatment plant this weekend.
But this was a unique one because stuff happens. DUIs happen in Minot.
It does.
That is what it is.
This was fun. Well, in some sense, the property owners wouldn't say so by any means.
Right.
But that night around 1 a.m. early Sunday morning, had that truck, a Chevy pickup coming northbound on 16th Street, looping right around the water treatment plant going north. There's that big curve there. No one likes to go the speed limit there. Everyone's always flying.
Yes.
This guy was really flying. He hopped off the curb, went across the lane over a yard, hit a car into its driveway, hit another car, spun it out, and then ended his pickup halfway inside of someone's garage, resting on their house. Luckily, the home that he did the most damage to at the end was unoccupied, so there was no one in it. But whole lot of damage happened. It was a 20-year-old person that did it, and this was their second DUI offense already.
Sounds like they should run for state legislature.
They'd be perfect for it. Give him a few years, he'll be up there.
So 2 houses,
and
2 cars,
3 cars total, including the pickup.
Right, including the pickup.
2 cars, 2 houses, and a pickup.
That is a wipeout zone. All right,
really was.
That's epic.
Speaking of epic,
well played.
That brings up our next point we were going to talk about: epic property management at Fargo.
Yeah, epic companies, really.
Yeah.
And this one we're going to be able to ask the city council candidates that we're going to be having on at 2:30. They'll be on. Excited to talk with them about what their opinion is, get some insights on last night's city council meeting, but also on this topic, because this is going to hit Minot at some point. There hasn't been a lot of coverage on how it will affect Minot because we haven't heard much from epic companies at all.
Not at all
on this. But as we're following this, basically, suddenly Friday, I believe it was, there was a sign that was posted on the door saying, if you want a meeting with us, you have to schedule it. Contractors were saying, we're it's looking like there's a chance we're not going to get paid.
Yep.
They're struggling to make payroll.
People are reportedly getting laid off. It's turning into a big mess over in Fargo and Grand Forks.
Yes, there was a letter that was, let's see, it was done by, I believe, Brian uh, Konofsky, Vice President of Epic Companies, President of the Arbor Courts Board. Kind of the verbatim, it says, we need to have a members meeting to discuss the future management of the Arbor Courts building. A few members that are non-Epic affiliated have reached out and are getting 2 proposals for managing the buildings as of now. I do not know when they will be ready, but we will make it happen as quickly as possible. I'll be resigning as president, and the members will need to be ready to choose a new board. I'll stay on to help the new officers with anything I can to make the transition as smooth as possible. And then the last part's really interesting. On Friday, May 10th, Todd, who is the Todd Burning, we've heard that name, president of Epic Companies, had a medical emergency and was admitted to the hospital. I do not have further details on his prognosis at this time. We understand that his family is asking for privacy right now. So that comes out. This is being reported by Valley News Live. Thank you, Valley News. But also, they reached out to construction companies, and this quote was interesting to me. A spokesperson with one of the construction companies said in an email on Monday, I'd personally prefer to stay above the fray. There are some good people who will be taken down with this, and there's no sense for us to add to their injuries.
So looks like there's a big, at the very least, some kind of upper management shakeup going on at Epic Properties.
Right.
They're laying people off. Their president is unaccounted for with some medical issues, so understandable there. But the vice president stepping down.
And of course, they have a ton of properties that they hold across the state. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. 2 of them are specific to us, which we have asked city council candidates about, of should the TIFs have been handed out to the Big M building and to the tracks that are going up in Minot, to interesting projects. And now, obviously, nobody could have seen this in their crystal ball that something like this would happen. But it's interesting. It also affects the Hoosfest,
without a doubt. And they are the ones that own and operate the Hoosfest now. They have for the past couple of years.
They're the management company that works with the Hoosfest Foundation.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be really interesting as well to see how that plays out.
They also own the Rocking Horse Bar in town. They operate that. They're a big property management. They have their fingers all over the state, and especially here in Minot too. And like Jonathan was saying, with that tracks project in the Big M building, if construction is able to continue on them or not, I haven't heard. Have you?
Right. I haven't heard as of yet of what's going to happen yet. And nobody, from everything that we've seen and we've tried to gather on this, nobody knows what's going to happen next.
It sounds like the company still is yet to release any kind of official statement or anything. They just have the sign on the door saying, show up if you want, but if you don't have an appointment, you're not getting in.
Right. So interesting stuff that we'll keep an eye on, but we'll also get some takes from the city council candidates later on at 2:30 on that.
Oh, without a doubt. It'll be entertaining to hear what they have to say about that. Been a lot of news on that, of course, lately between them and you and the city council itself. There's a lot of noise being made with those TIFs.
A very laid back campaign going on for or race going on for Ward County Commission.
Yes.
And that all changed very rapidly. Kind of break that down for us.
It was so laid back at one point. They didn't have enough. So there are 3 positions that are currently being open to run for. 2 of the incumbents were running. 1 wasn't. And after he chose not to run again, no one else had the requisite amount of signatures in time to step up and apply for office to be on the ballot. So after the Ward County announced that, post the date to get the correct amount of signatures to be on the ballot, we ended up having, I think it was 5 or 6 people, including the incumbent that was on there and previously chose not to be on it. He's now submitted his name to be as a write-in candidate. There's also, I think, another 5 candidates that are all going to be available on the June primary as write-in candidates. So if someone wins an outright, they'll go on to the general. If not, there'll be a runoff in November to see who would win between the top 2 vote getters, I believe.
It's going to be that's an interesting thing that there was no interest. See, I interviewed Scott Lauser, and that interview will be coming out later this week. And he's like, yeah, when I threw my name in for school board, there wasn't a lot of candidates. And then suddenly there were. It's interesting how people make that choice so late in the game for whatever reason. It could be there's nothing wrong with it.
Is it a yeah, but is it a service thing? Do they feel the need to step into the role at that point when they see no one else stepping up? It's one of those if not me then who kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's an interesting point of standpoint to see where they're coming from there.
absolutely. One thing that it seems like from my consumer, my point of view is not everybody's point of view, but as we make the transition from spring from winter into spring,
Mm-hmm.
this is interesting. A lot of the candidates I talk to,
Yep.
they go and they're like, well, not a lot, but a few of them have said, I really enjoy North Dakota because it has 4 seasons. And which is interesting because a lot of people, that's their complaint about North Dakota is it does not have 4 seasons.
I think it depends on the year.
Depends on the year. And this year we were blessed with a great fall,
Yep.
a mild winter, a good spring, and now we're going into summer. But when that happens, it seems like real estate gets on people's minds.
Without a doubt. Yep. That starts picking up a lot more. You see that people start getting the itch to buy again. It's becomes a lot more common to hear people talking about that.
And so I thought it would be exciting if we had somebody that's been in Minot for a long time, knows everything there is to know about real estate. We brought the proven expert today, Tim Knudsen. Thank you for joining us today, Tim.
That's quite the intro there, Jonathan.
But there's a few questions I want to talk about. But first, let's just break it down simple. There's been a lot of talk about real estate as the interest rates have increased over the last year or whatever. And how do you see that affecting the real estate market as we go into what should be more of a buying season?
Yeah. We've had kind of a low amount of stock, or
Right.
inventory for a while actually. So it's not just this season right now. We've been short on supply for a while. I remember when I first came on being a realtor, 11 years ago or so, we float right around like 250 houses on the market, give or take. And right now we're floating around like 100,
Wow.
And so, and I think part of that is that when people, this time of the year, that's usually when people are considering selling.
Yes.
But it's like, okay, if I sell, then where do I go?
Right.
And depending upon whether or not, how much they're getting for their place and what they're moving into, if they have to get a loan, then they, if they're frugal, they're going to look at interest rates and, so it might be preventing people from selling.
Sure.
So the market is, odd that way. There is some people too that, of course, are looking at the, that interest rate and like decided that, but they have to buy a home. So, that limits it. And, an interest rate, this interest rate is not, compared to, just even like when we bought our house, it was at 6.65 or something like that. And that was in 2008. But comparably, the median price of property has come up. So when we bought our house in 2008, it was worth, we bought for $199,000. And, my wife and I thought, oh my gosh, how are we going to afford this payment,
Especially in 2008, right at the height of the housing crash too.
Yep. And it's interesting to think that, because now, just by time, that house now is floating right around that $325,000 market. And, and that's what's doing really nothing to it. But now at that interest rate, that changes the whole ball game. Now, if you're talking buying a $200,000 house now, it's definitely not comparable. You're definitely going to be buying a fixer upper
at that stage.
Yeah, so it's a different market. And like right now, some of the interesting stats, I think anyway, since May 14th, there's been 51 new homes on the market, and right now 7 of them are contingent and have offers on them.
So that's pretty fun.
And it's interesting because a lot of them have sold within 24 hours at full price.
Wow.
So yeah. So the thing is that because it is a seller's market and there's low inventory and people are missing out on it, what happens then is people are a little bit more gun shy the next time around. They're like quick to make an offer, and they'll make a full price offer, and they'll maybe increase it a little bit to include their closing costs.
Yep,
so that way they're not missing out on their closing costs, and just trying to make the offers more competitive. And then historically, what's going to happen now is then in 6 months, when we go to sell houses again in the wintertime, then it's going to be showing, the appraisals are higher. So you got to remember how that ebb and flows like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't just a night and day type thing. Because, a few months ago, houses were slowly moving off the market, and people were getting better deals because they were able to negotiate, because people were, they weren't selling as fast, and people were like, well, I need to sell my house. So they're making a deal. So that kind of makes it kind of funny right now, where comparable, we're looking at houses that sold, 6 months previous to this.
Right.
So that kind of can make it a little bit tricky too. So now when we do sell a house for full price, I'm always kind of chewing my nails, like waiting for the appraisal to come back and see if it actually is going to meet appraisal value.
Right. Yeah.
But so far so good. Everything's been going really good that way. And so of the 51 new homes on the market since 14th, the average price has been 280,000, and the median price has been 295,000.
Jeepers.
Wow. That's
And
moved up.
yeah, I find that interesting. And then North Dakota average, according to the NAR, National Association of Realtors, is about 334,000 for the state is the average per home. So Minot's still affordable in that context to buy a home.
Comparably, for sure, compared to the rest of the state.
Yep. And comparably to the United States, where the average right now is about median price is 393.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
So
Almost
yeah, so we land right in that median area, because the top 3 states to buy, a home in, of course, is like California. And not top, I'm talking top price. Nobody wants to move to California. People are leaving California.
Yeah.
Thank you for moving to North Dakota, by the way, because we're selling houses like hotcakes.
Yeah.
And so we got California, Hawaii, and New York are the top 3.
That makes sense.
Up in that 700,000 average range, And then at the bottom, then we're talking like Ohio, Mississippi, and Oklahoma, that are lower.
People have historically moved out of more recently, and have had
What's
a place where people have more historically moved out of recently. There's been a more exodus there in the past 15 years or
15 years, yeah.
Yep.
I
Yep.
would move
And job opportunities too. We still have a lot of job opportunities here.
without a doubt.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I would move to Oklahoma or Ohio, but I really like Minot, so I don't plan on moving at all. So,
And what's interesting is that, so by default, we get a lot of people that are moving here because they're in the Air Force, right?
Right.
And the first instinct is like, well, we can't wait till our term is up and we're out of here. But then their story turns after a few years, regardless of our winters. It's like, no, we're putting in for another 4 years and we hope we can stay here. And if we do have to, we're going to come back. That kind of attitude of people are what winning people over to come back here, and just low crime, conservative views. Like I said, I'm helping, people from California that are moving here. And it's funny because I think everybody can identify with this, but like when I'm talking to them on the phone, right away, they kind of like got to apologize for themselves. They're like, but we're not like them. We're not like the rest of the California people. That's why we're leaving. We're coming here because, we are conservative, and, so it's funny. And I don't even have to say anything about it. They know.
They bring it up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you spend more marketing dollars in Minot or in California or in other states?
There's a love-hate decision about doing that. I've thought about, like, should I market to California? But then I don't know. We might get all those crazies.
Got to be careful. Very interesting.
Right?
So what's one of your favorite listings that you have listed on the market right now?
Yeah. You know what? I have this little hidden secret that, have you ever heard of Lake Antelope?
Okay. I've heard of that, but I don't know where that's at on a map.
It's in Harvey, North Dakota.
Okay.
Oh, you betcha.
Yeah, you betcha. And it's a new development. It's a large lake. It's beautiful. You look up Antelope Lake, and the development's been there like maybe 15 years. There's not a lot of cabins on the lake, and then when you drive back there, it's these nice rolling hills, and and I have this beautiful 2016 modular built. And just a little bit of information before we go too far with that: modular and manufactured, 2 different things.
Definitely.
People get confused about that. A modular home think of that as like a model home. It's pre-built and sometimes will be moved in and then put onto a foundation, or it's maybe delivered in 2 pieces and attached.
Yeah.
But it's a stick-built home. It's modular. Okay. It's not like a manufactured home. Manufactured home has got a metal frame under it, and you can put wheels on it and haul it away, aka trailer house.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. So two different things. So this is a modular home that was built in Canada and brought down in 2016, and attached 2-car garage, 1 acre lot, beautiful, overlooking the lake. I mean,
Wow.
it's just, yeah. But in 2 years, I can't get anybody to go look at it even.
Really?
Weird.
Yeah, and we've dropped the price down. I think we're down to like 430,000. I mean, and they're willing to let like all the furniture go with it. I mean, and this is beautiful. It's got, the pitch. I mean, it's a cabin. It's got the
Yeah.
beautiful pitched roof and the gas fireplace and just all the stuff.
Does it have a
And,
fair bit of acreage to go with it?
1 acre.
So that's a solid amount of land and property to have with it.
In a gated community, so they take care of the snow and stuff like that. And it's $200 a year for the gated community dues. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, and that's garbage, and there's a community well, and so they take care of the wellhead. It's really strange, but what's really interesting to me, when I started checking, like, who lives around the lake and kind of seeing what my customer base is, it was the majority more from Bismarck.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting that people from Bismarck driving all the way up there to go to their cabins. I suppose it's not much different than us going up to Metagoshi.
That's
those cabins, but
distance wise for sure.
How far?
yeah. So I joined
away?
the Bismarck MLS just for that fact that I could list my properties down there too, in hopes that I could help my client sell his modular cabin out on Lake Antelope. So
You had to try.
Yeah. So, and Harvey's an hour and 15 away from where we're at, from Minot.
Yep. And it's not all the way to Harvey either. So, it takes maybe just about give or take an hour once you get out on the dirt road and get out there.
Wow. That's not even bad. Not even bad.
Yeah. No.
Interesting.
I mean, it's not much different than most people around here that drive to their cabins at Skakawea. It's further.
Yep.
I mean, it's closer than Lake Metagoshi.
Right.
Oh, for sure. And how many people from Minot go up to Metagoshi every summer?
Right. Lots.
Exactly. Yeah, without a doubt.
One last question, just kind of like forecasting, whatever you can say on this topic. Do you see, with the way that markets have turned and everything, that there might be an increase in foreclosures in the next little bit, or have you seen that that's been pretty consistent over the last year?
It seems like already, because people bought, during the oil boom.
Yeah.
And so now we're starting to see the repercussions of that.
Right.
Where people are upside down, especially VA loans where they're getting in with nothing down and they think, oh, this is the best deal in the world, and so I always kind of, when I talk to my clients, I always want to talk to them about like an exit strategy, like, and I always encourage them, if you can put 10% down, because my thinking on that is hopefully that, whenever you guys sell it in the next few years, that 10% should be enough to pay a realtor and then also pay for closing costs for your buyer. So I estimate, I always tell them, start off with 10% down if you can. So that way you're not over a barrel, and hopefully the equity in the home hasn't gone backwards.
Yep.
But it's so hard to know. Minot, it's interesting. Every little area's got their own little thing going on. Us compared to Bismarck, compared to Williston, 3 different animals.
Right.
And so I think for here, just because of a lot of the VA loans, I think there's a lot of foreclosures in that context.
Yeah,
sure.
And then that too, I mean, that kind of skews the market sometimes too. That's why we go with median as opposed to average, because sometimes these foreclosures can sell for a song and dance. And
exactly.
Screw up the average.
Yeah. Very good. Well, I really appreciate you joining us today. It's been really insightful.
Good thing. Thanks for having me.
Tim.
Absolutely. You have a great rest of your day.
You guys too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Well, that's
conversation.
Interesting, right?
Oh gosh, yeah, that was fantastic conversations, Tim.
Yeah. I now we got to go check out Lake Antelope.
I know. I've heard of. I've never been in my life. I've born and raised here. Never been to Lake Antelope before. So if you're from the area down there, let us know. We'll try to make it.
Send
down
us some pictures. We'll throw it out there. Speaking of that, did you know over the weekend that there were Fort Stevenson set the world record for the most s'mores
made at one time. I did see that. I had a cousin that was down there.
All right.
They partook. It was in just outside of Garrison at Fort Stevenson. It was, and they set the world record for it. Most s'mores concurrently made at once. It was
an incredible thing.
Yes. Feat that we would never have expected to have heard, but let alone here it is.
But yet it happened. So really important. Yesterday, there was this big meeting that happened. I don't know if everybody knows about it, but there was this meeting at 5:30 that happened at City Hall. It's
Yes.
called Minot City Council.
They do it twice a month.
They do it twice a
First and
month.
third Thursday of every month.
And so it was good time, but there was some interesting topics that were covered. So you covered this closely. Break down some of the top things that you saw go down yesterday.
Without a doubt. So I due to work obligations, I can't get there live in person, but I'm able to watch the live stream thanks to the city of Minot for streaming that on their YouTube channel.
Even if sometimes they go and keep the music running a little long.
Yes, yesterday was an interesting night. First 5 minutes, they had the intro music and audio was looping back and forth, but it worked out well in the end. So basically, they started out going through some basic budgetary things and revenue projections for 2025. Then they passed along their consent items. The first of a couple big things they had that night, there was for about an hour and a half of the meeting that went just a little under 3.5 hours, there was a hearing that they held at the city council before the mayor with a local resident that owns a liquor license in town. They had some suspensions incurred to them between November of last year and March of this year. They had a hearing to suspend the license. The owner themselves admitted the fault in that. However, due to having prior spoken to police in town, they believed that it was okay to be selling where they were selling and how they were selling it, kind of thing. So there was some misconception there. So very long story short, city council ended up voting a little bit of a reduced suspension than what was initially planned. Instead of 45 days, they went with 30 days. And hopefully they're going to clear up that ordinance a little bit too in the long run.
Yeah.
But that led into the really interesting portion of the night. And that was when they discussed allowing the committee that is currently researching what it would take to remove the liquor license cap in the city of Minot, and to see what it would take to do so. So they've been looking into it, and the committee came to the city council last night. City council president Paul Pittner is on that committee, so he's pretty knowledgeable when it came to that. He was one of the leading forces behind talking through that major segment they had. The main goal of the committee, they want to be able to seek out legal advice on the potential incurrences that could happen if, say, the city of Minot does remove its current cap it has on liquor licenses. All of a sudden it goes from having less than 40 total businesses that operate with a full liquor license. Now it's a little different if it's a business that just sells beer and wine, but if they sell full alcoholic beverages, whiskey, bourbon, all that, they have to have a full license. So, and there's less than 40 in town that do.
Okay.
So between them, there's a possibility that if the city was to just straight remove the cap, all of those liquor licenses costs something to have. You have to purchase it from the prior owner. The city of Minot has to approve that purchase, but it still is something that is purchased relatively privately between two parties. The city of Minot just has to prove that the party coming in to buy the license is going to do what they say with the business. They're reputable and able to do what they're claiming at that stage. So you get past that. So they're going to the city to ask how they should proceed effectively. The city, everyone goes around. For the most part, there's pretty unanimous agreement by the council that they should proceed, at least if they're not going forward with the removal of the cap. They're just researching what it would take, potential litigation, legal issues that could arise from removing the cap. And then these people that consider this cap an asset to their business, all of a sudden they could think you're just wiping out anywhere from, the numbers vary, $135,000 to $500,000 of assets off their portfolio. That's a big bump to them.
Which is an interesting thing. And so I think it's interesting that it's considered on their portfolio. So because they consider it as an asset in their business, and it's obviously something that, like, I get where they had to invest money into it.
Definitely.
But markets can move all the time, and so for that to literally be an asset is an interesting thing.
It's a neat concept, and they had to fork out the money for it. And it is a unique concept. It's something that you don't see often.
So what we get to do is we get to pull in. We send an invite to the 5 city council candidates that are not currently on the city council. So we have 7 total. 5 of them are not on council right now. We sent an invite out to all of them to join us today, so that way we could talk about yesterday's city council meeting. We have a couple of them with us right now, and so we will go and invite them right now onto our stage, as it's called, so they can break this down with us. And we have Rob Fuller and Leif Snyder. Thank you guys for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for the invite.
So what we want to do here initially is we'll start with you, Rob, because you're left on my screen, and then we'll go to you, Leif. Just introduce yourself and give a general commentary on how you felt city council went yesterday, and maybe a couple things that stood out to you. We don't need 10-minute spills, but 2 or 3 minutes.
All right. My name is Rob Fuller. I'm running for city council. I've been on here at least one other time and a couple other things, so everybody's heard from me. I was at the city council meeting last night for most of it. I actually had a couple questions I wanted to ask afterwards, but didn't get to ask those. But anyway, honestly, I thought it was one of the most inefficient city council meetings I've ever seen or been to. I literally, they argued for an hour and a half about Lacaduc's fine and how they how they wanted to punish him and everything. Now, with that, I thought it was fair that they did dumb it down a little bit as far as what they gave for a suspension.
For sure.
But my biggest question and thought on the whole thing, and again, I heard people say, well, he has his license, he has to know every rule. Well, if you had guidance from a previous police chief, police administrator, or something like that, where you thought you were doing it right, and in my business, right, people would tell me, well, you have a federal firearms license, so you have to know every rule. And I do know them, but they change them continuously, or administrations change and policies change, so you don't know everything. So again, if he was in his mind operating in good faith by something he'd been told, and they found this out, and then they warned him and he stopped doing it, why did it need to go by that? First warning, he stopped. Again, I always, in listening to Chief Klug last night talk about, well, we didn't find them one after another, we found them all at one time. I get it, right? So I thought that was a little bit ridiculous that we sat there for an hour and a half talking about it. I mean, it was important to talk about, but it took a long time. Secondly, when we get to the alcohol ordinances, we have 3 attorneys in the city of Minot right now. We have the city attorney and 2 assistant city attorneys. Why are we hiring an outside firm to figure out our alcohol ordinances? I mean, isn't that literally the job of the people that work for the city of Minot to do? Like, here we are again, we're going to spend a bunch of money to hire somebody outside when we have 1, 2, or 3 people within the city of Minot who could work on it, I would guess, in when they have some free time, whatever, not doing other things. So I was frustrated last night.
Understandably so. It was a lot of jargon going on there with that hearing, I guess you could call it. It was, but going on to the liquor license, I believe their main argument that they had against why they wanted to hire outside city help. I think they mentioned they wanted to find someone that had possibly experienced this before or had been through a similar thing within a different city that took their cap away. Do you think that would have any bearing onto how the outcome should play, or do you think the city attorneys should still be able to handle it?
Well, and again, I'm referring to the writing of the ordinances, not necessarily taking the cap away.
Sure.
I can understand if they want to get some outside guidance, to figure out whether they should take the cap away, if they take the cap away, how it affects everything and stuff like that. I understand that. I'm more referring to the writing of the ordinances, which it sounded like, they're also going to farm out to another company. And I mean, I never ever thought I would say this in my whole life, but Kerry Evans made a great point. Please don't spend $500,000 on an outside attorney, right? I mean,
without a doubt.
Yeah. So I think, again, in small, brief bites, it's okay to reach out to other people, maybe a firm, and ask them that's had some experience with the changing of the number of licenses that we'll allow or taking the cap off. But the rest of it, if our city attorneys can't handle it, I'm going to say the same thing that I've said from day one. If we have to hire outside people to do everything that the people that work for the city of Minot do, I think we've got the wrong people in place in the city of Minot. Just my opinion.
It's a fair point.
So Leif, we'll go to you. introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of commentary on how you felt city council went last night.
Okay, so Leif Snyder. I've always been an engaged citizen, but after another 3.5-hour city council meeting, I see why some people aren't. It was inefficient. I got to agree with Rob. People disengage and step back when meetings run like that. They want conclusive stuff talked about, and they want over and done with. I wrote down a few points. The Renaissance Zone, we knew that was coming. There's a push for that. I happen to disagree with it. 6.8, the CIP.
Yep.
Believe it or not. Okay, yeah, I'm legally blind, so I'm very pedestrian. I can't drive. I cannot fathom spending, what is it, up to $7 million now for a pedestrian bridge?
I think just under 7 million total, yeah, for it between 2026 and 2029 when the construction starts on it.
Okay, I'll be honest. I live in Northeast Minot. With the 3rd Street Viaduct closed, I walked to City Hall for the meeting last night. I took Broadway. No, if the bridge would have been there, yeah, maybe I would have taken it. But $7 million? Are our priorities just that out of whack? Or is it someone's special interest? And I think council was protecting somebody's baby last night. The alcohol stuff, the alcohol stuff, and Mr. Lakaduck, and we got to clean that up. I can't imagine getting
a way more clear and apparent verbiage in it.
Yeah, I can't imagine getting a speeding ticket or getting 6 of them all at once over the last 2 years. And they said, hey, you had all these violations. You know, he addressed it right away. It's ridiculous to me. But all
Very interesting. Very interesting. So obviously you have some questions. I want to start out with the liquor license cap. Should this be removed? And if it's removed, should there be compensation given to people that currently have a license? We went with Rob first last time. We'll go with Leif first this time.
Okay, that's interesting because I think there are 39 hard, if you want to call it hard liquor licenses or full liquor licenses.
Yep.
We heard from the podium last night that one is valued at $500,000. Now, when you get 39 people in a room, nobody's going to agree on what their liquor license is worth.
Of course.
So that's a can of worms that could be very interesting if we start buying back liquor licenses. Could be awfully expensive.
Right. Yeah. So do you think it should be done or not?
I think it's worth looking into what it's going to cost, but ultimately I don't see it working. My hunch is it's not going to work. These people put up a lot of money for these liquor licenses.
And then do you feel like there should be an increase in the cap?
I would say increase the cap before get rid of it. It's the system we have now. And if the city were a little more flush with money, I could maybe see it. But let's face it, we're not.
Yeah.
So you think that those who do currently own it, if by chance the cap were to be removed, you think that they should be compensated, but you don't think the city of Minot, more specifically the taxpayers of Minot, should be the one to foot that bill?
Yeah, it gets complicated because we've grown, and I'm not sure what the cap was, say, in 1980, 1990. Has the cap moved along with our population growth? Those are the kind of questions I want to ask.
Without a doubt.
So going to you, Rob.
Do I think it should be increased? I think it's not a bad thing to look at increasing it possibly. I mean, if we have 39 now, maybe we add 4, 5, 6 more, whatever, get into the mid 40s. Do we uncap it? I don't think that's a smart thing. But on top of that, and as you guys were kind of leaning towards, it's going to affect the people that have had these liquor licenses and have had to pay through the nose for them for the last 30 to 40 years. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to uncap it and their liquor license is worth nothing.
Yeah.
How do you compensate that? I mean, that would be like, I don't know, you have one house that's worth $1 million somewhere, and then you go buy or you go build $330,000 homes around it, is your home still worth $1 million? No, it's not going to be worth hardly anything. So I don't think you can do that to a bunch of business owners and constituents in the city of Minot who've been dealing with these liquor licenses for the past 20, 30, or 40 years.
Let me ask this, and then Kyler can ask a question. Because I'm struggling with this. I get how it affects the homeowner or the homeowners, the business owners there that have purchased this and have invested in this and have made it a part of their business and now see it as an asset. I understand that part, but why? And I understand that we could go on a history lesson about why. So why would be the wrong question, but should government in the first place be capping these to the point where a liquor license becomes an asset to a business?
Well, I mean, how do you unring that bell? It's been that way in Minot forever, right? I mean, so no, I agree with you. I don't think the government should have been involved with it from the very start, but they are. So now if you go to unwind it, how much damage does it do to the local businesses?
Right. Absolutely. And so, Leif, what's your view on that as well?
I would agree with Rob there quite a bit. It's a slippery slope, and I'm afraid if we just say, okay, no cap, well, let's face it, that's why they're saying, hey, let's look at outside counsel, because they know it's going to be a problem.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, here's another thing too.
I think yes, we do need. Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you uncap this, right, and you take a bunch of value from a bunch of business owners in the city of Minot, do you not think the city's going to be embroiled in some kind of lawsuit?
Yeah.
I mean, if it was my business, I'd sue the heck out of the city all of a sudden because you just took a good portion of my value of my business or my asset and flushed it down the toilet.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's such a unique situation. It's
funny. Minot's in so many unique situations all the time, isn't it?
Hey, well said.
That's why Minot's great, right?
All
It's
right.
the magic city for a reason. One other thing with the liquor license, though, one question I wanted to ask to kind of wrap it all up. So if you are to go off of everyone keeping the cap, I guess we already asked Leif this. I think I'll ask it to Rob as well. Would you be for the raising the cap that we currently have?
Yeah, again, I don't see a problem with raising the cap. I think that's based off of the need in Minot, right? We determine how many establishments, liquor licenses, joints we want to go to. So, I mean, if the population of Minot has grown since the last time they increased the liquor licenses, it might be a good thing to look at. Maybe raising it, like I said, 3, 4, 5, 6 licenses. And then, in a few years, address it again. It isn't something I don't think that has to happen annually. Unless we blow up in population overnight, but
right. So then, and this is getting really perspective, just looking into the future. Should it be rewritten to have it based off population alone? Then, just go and rewrite so you have some, rather than it being going for we should do it now. No, we shouldn't, and it always up to the city council. Just said nope. We're going to have this many liquor license per this amount of population.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. At least there's a metric so everybody knows how many there's going to be, right?
Right.
And then I think you just have to determine how often does it get looked at. Can you do it with the census every 10 years? Can you do it every 5 years? Whatever it may be.
Yeah. And Leif, your opinion on that?
I don't disagree with the sentiment, but here's one issue. What if we lose population to the point where we say, okay, now we need to start pulling some liquor licenses back in?
Right.
Yeah. How would you?
Hopefully that doesn't happen, but just something to think about.
Without a doubt.
Well, I just had so much trust in our city council that we won't lose population. Moving to Epic.
Yeah.
All right. So we have this stuff going down with Epic, and this isn't necessarily from city council yesterday. So we'll throw a sideball at you, but there's a lot that's gone on with Epic since Friday of last week. And if you were on city council, and obviously there's going to be a lot of information you're going to need to make a decision, but how is this where the city needs to go and step in again and maybe start taking over these projects, supplementing these projects, especially the one downtown? How do we go about this? We'll start with Leif.
You want to go first or not, Rob? But
go for it, Leif.
I have always been one who questions things. Okay, I don't like group think, and I even pointed out how the city council has voted previously on all this epic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the caveat being the very first vote for the TIF for the M building, I probably would have voted for. Everything that has followed since, I don't think I would have. I just question things. Every vote regarding epic stuff has been 7-0, 7-0, 7-0, all in favor. And I just think that's a risky way to go about it. I've been following this epic stuff for quite a while. I've actually made some predictions, and lo and behold, some of it's actually coming true. So I'm not sure how in front of this the city can get. We're going to have to, and I don't know how ugly it's going to get. That's going to be the issue. The TIF at the M building, especially because the asbestos abatement that it was paid for was bonded out. So instead of paying taxes, as I understand it, it goes to pay down that bond. I don't know where Epic's going to fall in all this. I'm rather nervous, to be honest. I hope taxpayers aren't left holding the bag again, but I'm not sure how it's going to go.
We'll go to you, Rob.
Does the city need to step in? I don't think the city needs to step in right now until we figure out how this is all going to fall out. But I think what the city does need to do is we need to make sure, and I'm sure David and those guys in the finance department are thoroughly all over this, but we need to make sure that there's no exposure for the city at all, because sometimes with TIF districts, as I've seen in my past banking world, if somebody, a contractor developer, can't pay the TIF into the TIF district itself, or pay the money into the TIF district itself, that the city would be responsible for filling that up. Hopefully that isn't the case. Hopefully they also have surety bonds on everything to make sure that work was completed and the city was covered that way. So right now, though, I honestly, I just think you have to let things kind of play out, and then the city makes some determinations from there as to what we need to do to protect ourselves and our citizens.
It's an interesting thing because however it plays out, whoever's voted in gets to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's going to be your guys' situation potentially.
Oh, behold, it's coming up real quick now too.
June 11th. You got any more questions, Tyler?
One thing, clarification with you, Leif. So you mentioned groupthink. I just wanted to clarify. You by that you mean 7-0 consensus votes. Whenever they do that, you just think there should be some kind of dissenting vote, almost, right?
I think someone at the dais after June 11th should question things more. Put it that way. Look, financially, the city is not in a great position. And I have some qualms with how some things are run and where endorsements for these projects come from. I think it wouldn't be bad for any candidate to say, no, Chamber, we're not going to support this.
For sure.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, there we go. Thank you guys for joining us today. Really appreciate you guys' insights. I wish you both the best of luck come June 11th, primary day. We'll give you 20 seconds. Make it quick. Why should they go to the polls to vote for you guys? Start with you, Rob. I threw a sideball.
Just get out and vote, everybody. I think this city election on June 11th is really important for the city of Minot. If we don't get some new blood and some new thought processes on the city council, we're going to continue to get the same BS that we've been getting for the last 10 years out of them. And I'll be honest, as a business owner and a homeowner and everything else within the city of Minot, I don't know how many of us can survive another 4 to 10 years going like this with property tax and all the other stuff that they seem to want to do. So if you're happy with what we got, don't go vote. If you want something different, get out and vote and vote for somebody different this time.
Absolutely. You, Leif?
Yeah, get out and vote. I've had enough. It's basically why I'm running for this wonderful paying part-time job. If people need to learn more about what I'm out, just watch the public comment on last night's meeting.
Yep. Very good. All right. Well, appreciate you guys joining us today. and wish you guys best of luck.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for
Thanks.
having us.
Yes. All right, man. That's an interesting
Oh,
discussion,
gosh.
isn't it?
Always riveting conversation. We get to have actual candidates running for office on our show with us. Hopefully, we'll be able to have that more in the future, especially come closer to this fall. Well, for sure on the 11th, I think we're going to try and have some people on our show.
11th is
3-hour
big.
live covering the live election results in the city of Minot and the state primary events. It's going to be a great night. Make sure you check in, set your calendars for June 11th at 7 p.m. here at the Dakota.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, people need to get out and vote. Make sure you vote. It's kind of sad that when you think about the fact that people just kind of numbers wise, historically, not a lot of engagement on primary day. Hopefully that can change this year.
I hope I have my hopes it can. I know there's been a lot more coverage of this year's primary election than we've had in a while.
Maybe you just paid attention more this year.
I might do. I might just be more into it. Who knows? But at the very least, thanks to you and us here at the Dakotan, there's an extra source to get your election coverage from Election Central.
We have went and interviewed, I believe 5 city council candidates so far. I believe all the interviews are.
I think they're all on YouTube.
They're all out that we've interviewed. And we have 2 left, one with Mike Geetson and one with Dr. Padrigula. Both those interviews are happening soon and they'll be out for people to take a look at. So that'll be exciting. We'll have all those. You can get to know your candidates a little bit better to make a little more informed decision.
Because the local elections is where it really matters. You can go and vote in the national elections. And of course, it's going to, your vote always counts. But living in North Dakota, we all know that, just speaking bluntly and being plain with it, if I can call it as I see it, it's probably going to be 60-40 red versus whatever they're running against. It's just North Dakota's history. That's why voting at the city level, it directs you the most effectively. It allows you to get your say, the candidates you want into office. And then with the city elections in the state of North Dakota too, it's really special because everyone is running as a nonpartisan. They're not running based on party guidelines. They're not running from endorsements from a party. They're running to best help the people of the city. And we have at large candidates for our council. So it's anyone from any part of the city can run. They're going to be making a big difference come this June here, especially when the election happens. And it's not just city council that you're voting for either. It's the school board, the park board, that Ward County Commissioner's office that we mentioned earlier. They make a lot of things happen for the county. So just
you mentioned the local elections, but Julie Fedorchak, she would say that you need to get out there and vote on June 11th, and Dr. Becker would, and
Without
a few
a
other,
doubt.
because there's some primary races that are pretty interesting.
I think Kelly Armstrong and Tammy Miller would say the same thing
on the Republican side. It's a really interesting political cycle. Make sure you get out there and vote this year.
Yeah, no, this is, speaking of the political cycle we have, the Republican primary for the House in my lifetime is something I've never seen in the state of North Dakota. For the majority of my life growing up, we had Earl Pomeroy as our sitting congressman. He was there for 20, 30 years.
Some would say too long.
Exactly. Until 2010, when the Tea Party pushback started happening in Congress. And that's when Rick Berg got elected. And now we've had Republicans there ever since. But also to go along those lines, we've never seen this contested of a Republican primary either.
5 candidates still in it. There was another one at one point.
And multiple of them have a pretty high status in their party too.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very interesting race to see how it plays out.
So you got Rick Becker, and then you have Julie Fedorchak, and Rick Becker couldn't get endorsed. Sorry about that. I'm not sure how that happened.
Yeah, those are definitely the big 2 right now. There's also Kara Munn, former Miss America, ran as an independent.
And that's
in
interesting.
2022.
So, and what I was getting at is you had those 2, and Rick Becker couldn't run in the primary, or he can run in the primary. Sorry,
he can't be endorsed by the
you
party.
could not be endorsed. You can vote for Rick Becker come June 11th, but he could not be endorsed by the party. And so then it was like, shoo, and Julie Fedorchak's going to get the endorsement. Matter of fact, I was listening to something, just a clip of someone that was covering the convention. They're like, yeah, all the drama's done. Now it's just going to be easy sailing from here. Fedorchak's going to get the endorsement. This is what's going to happen. And then it didn't happen because people had their say. They spoiled ballots. Things happened. So then Alex Balazs got the endorsement.
Compromise candidate.
And then what's interesting about that was he gets it, and like he doesn't poll very well.
Exactly.
It's
a lot of the polling that
just-
we've seen come out so far, he's kind of hovering third, fourth right now.
Yeah. And then you have the other two you're mentioning.
Yeah, Charlotte Moore from
Yes.
Williston. She's very engaged in local politics, mother, and does a lot in the local Williston area there. Then also, like we mentioned, Cara Mund, former Miss America. She also, had she submitted the paperwork in time to be on the ballot for the endorsement, she wouldn't be eligible for it either, because like Rick Becker in 2022, who ran as an independent for Senate, she ran as an independent for House. So neither of them could have been endorsed by the party, but clearly they can both run for the party's primary to be the candidate as on the Republican ballot this fall.
One day, actually, primary day, we'll break that down for you.
Yeah,
we'll
we'll go-
explain how that process works.
It'll be fun. It'll be in depth. It'll be long. We're going to have a lot of coverage that night. It's going to be a good time. I'm excited for it.
So we talked city council, and it was an interesting discussion with the candidates.
It was.
We were anticipating at least one more being on, and so we're sorry about that. But what's your opinion on how city council went last night?
I mean, to echo what they said, I think if I can speak bluntly and call them as I see them, I think it was excessive how they had the hearing there. It was necessary. It's something that needs to happen in a public forum, but to have it happen on the night of city council with the rest of city business, I feel like it could have been postponed to a later date. Obviously, they offered that to the citizen that was there, and he wanted to have the hearing then. So that's fully his prerogative. But I feel like the city could have managed its time much more efficiently last night, rather than having a 3.5 hour long city council meeting from Minot, North Dakota. It could have been much closer to 2.5.
3 hours is a long time. And it's not the first time we've ever had a 3 hour meeting.
No, without a doubt. And then, like, they were talking about the potential. So Lisa Olson introduced an amendment to the construction project that they mass approved last night. She wanted to take a bridge off that was set to be funding, like Leif Snyder said, for over be about $7 million in budget, but it wasn't set to start being budgeted into until 2026. And so instead of just wiping it off the budget and having that money float around, the council decided to vote that amendment down and just kick that question down the road to a later time.
Yeah. So it's interesting how those consent items work. And we've tried to start, we'll have our article on the city council meeting out later today.
Without a doubt.
But we've been trying to go and identify the consent items and basically what happens. And I was going to ask the council members, I ended up not getting, just to get their opinion on if that's the right call for us to have this. But basically there's just items that are all grouped together.
Yeah.
And they get mass approved. Now they've probably already had some hearing before, such as city council meetings.
Yeah.
Minutes.
Yeah.
Like
minutes from the meetings and from committee meetings.
Sometimes it's just little stuff like that.
But then on the flip side, there's large construction projects.
Right. That sometimes get looped in.
Approving the CIP for the next 4 years. That's kind of big.
Right. And so it's interesting how that happens. Probably mitigate some discussion that could be had on it. But I don't know. Maybe that should change down the road.
Possibly. Another thing that could end up changing too. I just know that you had talked about this in a recent interview with candidates. Minot's city council used to be.
You listen to my interviews?
I know. I am one of the few. It's at least some.
Hey, one of the few.
It's building up. We got to get people out there that know.
Yeah, if you're watching this, make sure you like and subscribe.
And hit the notification bell. You'll be informed of all the uploads we have. The Dakotan, check mydakotan.com. Election Central, where Jonathan interviews everyone.
Yeah.
We're building the view. And that's the thing with a lot of the local city council interviews that you've had, those views are getting higher. Yeah. And one of them you mentioned, you were talking about how there used to be seven different wards in the city of Minot.
Yeah,
and there was
wards.
2 candidates to each ward. So there was 14 total city councilmen and the mayor, but the mayor wasn't a voting member. He didn't have much of a say unless it was to break ties at that stage. Do you think obviously this would be even further down the road, but Minot is, vaguely we can say Minot is a growing city still, generally speaking. Do you think it would be prudent to have the mayor be a full-time position in Minot in the future?
Not the question I was anticipating.
I bet it wasn't. I'm throwing a curveball at you now.
Yeah, the mayor being a full-time position.
It's with the city of Minot growing, it becoming recently a metropolitan a larger metropolitan area, so we get more grant
Does the
funding.
mayor would we be able to pay the mayor enough?
That's the
Like
question.
what's the salary that if this
It-
city manager makes 6 figures plus, right?
Is that worth it for a mayor?
Almost the city manager I think makes close to 200,000. Doesn't make 200,000, but
It's
close.
100 something.
I think it's like high 100s. So how much do you have to pay the mayor? And does he then take, which I just don't see that he would. Does he take responsibilities from the city manager at that point? What becomes the
You would
role?
assume there
of-
would have to be more on the mayor's plate at that point. He would
Yeah.
have to take on more responsibilities and
See, I'm
roles.
more interested in going back, and I know it's a recent change. I'm more interested in going back, and I avoid your question, which I can answer it. But I'm more interested in going back to having the wards and all that because
Do you think there needs to be 2 people per ward though?
I don't know.
Because if I could be wrong, but I have looked at past elections on the Secretary of State website before. I think, if I'm not correct, and I could be wrong, correct me if I am, on the last election they had in 2014 or 2016 with the wards, I believe that one of the wards didn't have a candidate. And so it was left open and they had to have a write-in candidate kind of runoff, go down to the fall. I don't know if that ended up having something to do with why they reduced it, just for the lack of
I think
interest, or how that played out.
I don't think we need 14 city council members. I think this is on the spot. This is not pre-thought through.
Yeah, this is off the cuff here.
I think you can divide Minot into 4 quadrants. I think maybe at that point you can have 2 per ward and have 4 wards essentially. And then that would give you 8 council members.
And a voting mayor still, or
Yeah, having a which was interesting if you said 14, right?
Yeah.
And then a non-voting mayor, which means that the mayor was probably a tie-break vote.
yeah, he only votes in the effect that there's a tie, which I assume that didn't happen a ton, but it was necessary at times.
It's interesting. Should your mayor vote? Some probably would say no, but it's also interesting to see what his opinion is on stuff to understand where he stands as well.
Because he's the elected leader of the city.
Yeah.
He's the head of the city government.
So for that reason, I kind of like him voting. So you could just go with I think you need a couple at-large members. So like at that point, I'd be looking, which is too much still, I feel.
So-
10 members, 2 at-large members. So 10 council members and then a voting member. Yeah, let's go with a voting member.
There we go. See,
Um,
we're fixing Minot City Council right here.
But I still think that, yeah, we're fixing it. But I still think that 10 is too much. So maybe the better solution is to go 4
4 wards and then 2 at large,
go 4 at large.
or 4. There you go.
Go 4 wards, 4 at large.
And then the mayor.
And it would be interesting to hear the feedback of whether or not, if you had that many at large, if they would dilute or delete the voice of the wards, because they could all get together and then go against. It'd be easier to get pushback against the wards.
That's true. It's a lot more specific, rather than I think it was mentioned in your interview, rather than just emailing everyone or reaching out to one specific person or
Yeah.
just generally mass emailing everyone. You have a specific city councilman that is
I think that
in
part's good.
your region that you can reach out to.
All right, so let's keep it the same 7 members. Let's go 4 wards, 3 at large, and 1 voting mayor.
That would work too.
That's what we have. That's
Well,
not what we have
it
now.
would be
That's the
4
amount that we have now.
4, 2, and then the mayor.
We only have 6 members.
Yeah, there's 6
You're-
sitting city councilmen.
You're right.
Yeah, and then the
I'm,
mayor.
I'm losing my mind.
It happens. It's a long day.
Interesting stuff. Well, guess what, Kyler?
We're getting near the end. You want to talk about some fun stuff happening in Minot this week real fast?
Let's do it.
All right. Got a couple interesting things happening in Minot. One thing that we really want you to be on the alert this week is the Battle of the Badges blood drive. It's happening at the Grand Hotel on North Hill. You can go donate blood through Vitalent. They are taking it's a challenge. So there's the police department, fire department, and I believe emergency responders. I think medical staff. I'm not 100% positive. There are 3 different badges that you can go if you donate blood. Whichever one gets the most donations is the winner. Really good cause. Helps drive a lot of donations for the year. Help restock that blood bank. Plus, little friendly competition between the local fire and police departments.
That'll be interesting.
It will, and I think it goes on through Thursday. It's happening now and happening tomorrow as well for sure. And I believe
who's
it's
gonna
through
win?
Thursday. What was that?
Who's going to win?
I've met one person that's donated. He said he donated to police department. So
Come on, make a call. Make a call. Who's going to win?
I will lean police. We'll go with the
Police.
MPD.
All right. We'll try to get an update on that.
I know the lady that works at that runs by talent, so we can try to find some solid numbers for next Tuesday.
Sounds great.
It'll be fun. Only other thing I think we might want to mention, if you have a young one, if you have a young child at home, it is the free community car seat check this week. You can definitely take your car seat up there, child or not. They will check over your car seat, make sure it fits your child right, it fits in the seat right, make sure everything's all set. So
that's got to be one of the most frustrating things in the world.
Oh, without a doubt. I could only imagine.
Oh, I don't have to imagine
having to get a toddler into the car seat every day.
Oh man. and then it's terrible once that car seat gets taken out, having to re-put that thing in. I don't enjoy that part of parenting.
Oh, it's not easy.
Yeah, it's rough.
So yeah, if you also maybe struggle with this or don't love it, you can take it down to, I believe it's the Minot Auditorium or the Minot Police Department, and they will check it over for you.
Very good. Well, that's a show, man.
It was. I think it went well this week, Jonathan.
Absolutely. We appreciate everyone for tuning in to Minot Talk here at the Dakotan. Be sure to like, subscribe, stay tuned, because guess what? Next Tuesday at 2 p.m. we'll be live again. We'll have some exciting content coming your way. We're gonna have a guest co-host. We're gonna have some cutting edge topics.
It's gonna be great.
Every Tuesday at 2.
Dakotan, mydakotan.com, on Facebook. Like, subscribe, comment, all the fun things.
Join the fun. All right.
Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We do appreciate it.
And, have a great day.